Laughter rang out as Claire stepped off the bus, mocked for her size, abandoned by the man she came to marry. Then a quiet farmer pushed through the crowd, dropped to one knee, and proposed in front of everyone. The town froze. But what happened next will leave you speechless. First, let's go back to the beginning. The sun beat down like judgment as the bus doors hissed open and Claire Bennett stepped into the red dirt stillness of Granger, Texas. The heat hit first, then the stares. Claire, 32, with soft features framed by strawberry blonde curls tucked into a neat low bun, clutched a scuffed brown suitcase in one hand and her dignity in the other. Her dress, faded blue with faded roses, clung to her curves, not by choice, but because it was the only thing she owned that still fit after a month of saved meals. She was not dainty, not polished, but she was present, and she had come here for something real. Granger hadn't expected her, or maybe it had, and simply come to watch the circus. Clusters of locals gathered around the bus stop like flies to heat. Wide-brimmed hats, cheap sunglasses, folded arms. Murmurs turned into whispers, whispers into open mockery. "She don't look like the catalog," someone muttered. "Looks like they sent us 2 for 1. A ripple of cruel laughter spread through the crowd, carried by heat and malice. Claire didn't respond. Her cheeks burned, yes, but she kept her chin high, her spine rigid. She'd faced worse. Loneliness could do that. It trains you in silence. She scanned the row of pickup trucks, hopeful for a sign. A man holding a flower. A name scribbled on cardboard. Anything. But there was no one. The man she'd exchanged letters with, the widower looking for companionship and help on his land, hadn't come. Whether by cold feet or cruel joke, Claire had been left standing, alone, and yet not entirely unseen. From a nearby porch shaded in late afternoon gold, Tom Carter watched. Mid-40s, tall and broad-shouldered, with hands shaped by dirt and decades. He leaned against the wooden post of his farmhouse with quiet intensity. A battered Stetson cast a shadow over his sharp brow and weathered jaw. He didn't laugh. He didn't whisper. He just watched. There was something about the way Claire stood, rooted even under the weight of humiliation, that stirred something long buried in Tom. It wasn't pity. It was recognition. A silent, stubborn strength. A refusal to shrink. And as the town laughed and she stood silent, he saw her, not as a joke, but as a woman worth walking toward. Claire moved forward as if the dust might swallow her shame. Each step across Granger's sun-baked street was deliberate, her chin stubbornly lifted, but the weight behind her, the laughter, the jeers, the stares, dragged at her heels like wet sand. Her dress clung tighter under the heat, and with every step she could feel her self-respect peeling away in layers. Jolene McAllister made sure of that. 29, born and bred in Granger, with glossy brunette waves, sharp heels clicking on pavement, and a reputation for cruelty wrapped in charm. Jolene stepped into Claire's path like a pageant queen on parade, arms crossed, eyes glinting. "Did you get lost on your way to the county fair?" she sneered, her voice bright enough for everyone to hear. "That service must have had a sense of humor. Hope you kept the receipt." Laughter exploded. Men, women, even teenagers holding up phones, their screens glowing like flashbulbs of shame. The postmaster chuckled from behind his glass window, failing to hide it behind a cough. An old man spat into a bucket like it punctuated the joke. Claire's face flushed. Her eyes welled, but she blinked hard. Not out of fragility, but defiance. Her voice, when it came, cracked but stood. "I'm here for a fresh start. That's all." It was the truth. But truth rarely mattered in rooms ruled by mockery. Until the porch creaked behind her. Tom Carter had been silent too long. He'd watched this town turn cruel many times. When he was 10 and barefoot and too poor to bring lunch to school, when he was 23 and buried his father without enough for a headstone, when he was 39 and the woman he loved left him for someone with softer hands. Granger remembered everything, especially who they thought was beneath them. But today, they forgot to fear silence. Tom rose from the porch with slow certainty. His flannel sleeves rolled just below the elbows, denim jeans faded with honest work, boots caked in stubborn red earth. His steps down the porch were steady, the kind that make sound without stomping. And when he hit the ground, the laughter thinned, eyes turned, jaws tightened. Because when a quiet man walks into a crowd, it's not to laugh, it's to change the tone. The wind shifted just slightly in Granger, Texas, as Tom Carter's boots met the ground. His presence alone was enough to crack the smug grin off Jolene's face. She stepped back without realizing it, as if some instinct warned her this wasn't the kind of man you mocked twice. Tom moved slowly, but with purpose, past the teenagers still holding their phones but not recording now, past the women clutching their purses with slackened jaws, and past the postmaster who froze mid-stamp, his hand hovering like a man suddenly unsure of where he stood. He stopped right in front of Claire. "Enough," he said. No shouting, no raised fist. Just one word, weighted like an anvil, dropped on silence. The laughter died instantly. Claire turned, startled. Her breath caught when she saw him up close. His eyes, blue-gray like morning frost, met hers without flinching. Tom took off his hat, holding it over his chest. His voice, aged oak and firelight, filled the space left behind by their cruelty. "This town forgot its manners," he said, eyes sweeping over the gathering. "But I haven't. Claire, you came all this way, not for their laughter but for life. You wanted a partner? Well, I've been praying for one." Then he knelt. The world seemed to stop. He didn't kneel with hesitation. He knelt with reverence. In one hand, calloused and stained from a lifetime of harvests, he held a simple ring, a small silver band, tied with a thread of twine, humble as the man himself. "Claire Bennett," he said, voice low but unwavering, "would you be my wife?" Claire stood frozen, her eyes wide and shimmering. Her hands rose to her lips as the meaning unfolded. She wasn't imagining it. This wasn't pity. This wasn't charity. It was honor. Her fingers trembled over her heart. Then, slowly, she smiled. Not the kind of smile people fake for politeness. A real smile, born from ache and rising above it. The kind of smile that tells you she's about to say yes, not just to a man, but to a life reclaimed. "Yes," she said. Gasps rolled through the crowd like thunder behind glass. Jolene's face fell, pale with disbelief. The postmaster forgot to breathe. But somewhere in the back, someone clapped, then another, and another, until the applause filled the street, not in ridicule, but in respect. The last light of the day spilled across the porch like a benediction, warm and soft as a worn quilt. Claire sat beside Tom on the creaking swing, her hands resting quietly in her lap, fingers brushing the fraying hem of the floral dress that once felt like a costume, and now felt like armor turned silk. The laughter from earlier in the day had vanished, replaced by cicadas and the distant hum of cattle, the music of a life that asked for nothing but honesty. "I thought I came here alone," Claire said, voice barely louder than the wind in the wheat. Her gaze stayed fixed on the horizon, where the sky melted from gold to fire. "But I think I was meant to be seen." Tom didn't answer right away. He looked at her, really looked, with the same quiet depth that had once watched from a shaded porch while the world mocked a stranger. His hand found hers, rough and warm. "They judged the outside," he said simply, "but I saw everything else." And that was enough. In the weeks that followed, the town shifted in its boots. Jolene avoided Claire's eyes now, her smiles stiff and cautious. The postmaster tipped his hat. Even the teenagers who once snapped photos now bought honey and eggs at the farm stand, their glances shy, unsure whether to apologize or pretend they hadn't laughed. But Claire never needed the apology. She co-managed Tom's farm like she'd lived there forever, sleeves rolled, hair pinned up, laughter rising over fields at dawn. She turned her quiet pain into something fruitful, hosting Sunday markets with homemade pies and jam jars that bore her name. People came not just for produce, but to talk, to listen. And slowly they understood. She hadn't changed to belong. She'd stayed exactly who she was until belonging had no choice but to catch up. Some still whispered when she walked by, but now it wasn't mockery. It was reverence. A story retold under breath and behind hands, because no one forgot the day a too-fat mail-order bride stood taller than them all, not with revenge, with grace, and a man beside her who saw her worth before anyone else even tried.